recording of the presentation. So I'm going to begin the recording now. And we'll post the recording on the MeBe website so that if you want to go back and catch up on anything that you may have missed, or if you have to leave a little bit early, you can always go back and see the presentation. And also feel free to share with your friends. So my name is Katie Fenton. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager with MeBe, and I will be moderating the webinar today. Our presenters are Angela and Megan here with me, and I'll pass it to them in just a moment. So like I did say, we are recording the session, and we'll post the recording to the MeBe website. And we will also send a follow-up email to everybody who registered so that you'll get a link to the recording to review it later, as well as a link to the presentation so that you can go back and see some of the helpful tips and strategies that Megan and Angela provide. And we'll send a link to the resources that they mentioned as well. So if you hear something interesting, you'll be able to go back and see the resources. If you have any questions, you can put a question in the Q&A box or use the chat box, and we'll be monitoring those for questions. Like I said at the beginning, all of the attendees are in listen-only mode, so we can't hear you. But if you have a question, send it to us, and we'll do our best to respond. And we'll also have time at the end of the webinar to answer questions as well. So thank you again so much for joining us today. Make sure that you follow MeBe Family on Instagram and Facebook to catch up on all of our tips and updates and future webinars. Make sure also you can visit the MeBe website at mebefamily.com. So to get started here, since all of your attendees are in listen-only mode, we do want to get to know you a little bit. So I'm going to bring up a poll. And the first question will be, what is your child's age? So that we can understand the age range that you're working with. So you should see the poll pop up. I can see people are starting to respond. So I'll give you a few seconds to put your answers in here. And I'll let people are still responding, so we'll wait a few more minutes. If you have more than one kiddo, definitely put in more than one. You can have multiple choice. All right, I'll give it a few more seconds. I see some people are still responding here. And you should be able to see the poll pop up on your screen. I'll give it a couple more seconds and then I'll close that out. All right. So we can share the results. You should be able to see that. Oh, I missed somebody. Sorry, someone else also, they have a 3-year-old. They missed.
Oh, great.
Sorry about that. Great. Okay, so on the we've got some, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and a couple of the older kiddos as well. So that'll be helpful for Megan and Angela as they're providing some examples for you. And I've got one more question for you. I'm going to do one more poll here. Which is more challenging for your children right now? Is it wearing face masks or maintaining a physical distance, or both? And I'll wait so that everybody gets a chance to respond to this poll as well. See a lot of both. A lot of people submitting, so thank you everybody for participating. This helps us to know what your challenges are. So I'll wait a few more seconds so everybody gets a chance. And I'll close the poll here in just a minute, and we'll share those results out. Ready? Okay. So I'll share those results. So face masks, followed by physical distancing, and followed by both.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to close the poll here, and I will pass it over to Angela and Megan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to be delving into some of these very important topics today: adapting to the new normal, how to navigate these new social norms. So exactly just what Katie mentioned before, really navigating how to see if we can increase tolerating masks, as well as working on a lot of the social and physical distancing that COVID and this pandemic have now presented us these new fun challenges. I'll start with introducing Miss Megan. I'll let her do that.
Hi, I'm Megan Stumer. I'm a BCBA and I'm a North County Clinical Director for ABA. I'll give a little background about myself. I originally am from New York, moved out here to sunny San Diego, of course, for the beautiful weather, and never went back. I've been in the field for about 10 years now. I worked mainly in a community-based setting prior to starting at MeBe. I've worked with a pretty wide age range of clients. I've worked with kids as young as 1.5, 2 years old, all the way up to 21, 22 years old. So I have a pretty wide, diverse kind of background in the clients that I work with.
And hi, everybody. I'm Angela Ochoa. I'm the Director of Occupational Therapy here at MeBe. I am the newest to the party, I like to say. MeBe has a very long standing history of providing really wonderful ABA services, speech and language pathology, and now I'm very grateful to be a part of the MeBe team and provide occupational therapy as well. To give you some background on me, I'm born and raised in San Diego. I did my undergraduate degree here at UCSD, and then I stayed in California but went up north to San Jose for my OT degree. And then just as soon as I could, came right back down to San Diego and have been here as an OT for the last 12 years. I've worked predominantly in private practice. I've done some consulting for some school districts, some non-public school program settings, and now I'm very fortunate to be here at MeBe. My background as far as working with clients is varied, similar to Miss Megan. I see little itty bitty kiddos. Our age ranges range from 0 to about 14 at the clinic, but I've worked with kiddos as old as 22, 23 years old. So lots and lots of occupational needs for our families that we serve. And so certainly we know that this topic today is related to both ABA as well as OT. So we're excited to share our knowledge and share some examples and see if we can provide some great feedback for you.
I'm going to give a little bit of background about MeBe as a company. I know some of you are receiving services from us already, which is great. But for those of you who aren't, we also want to give you a little background of what it is that we do at MeBe. So MeBe is all about me being me. So we really put that personal touch on all of your child's services that they're receiving. So like Angela was saying, we do a variety of services. So we do ABA therapy as well as speech and OT. And we do have a center that's down in Kearney Mesa where we provide all three in the same location. We also do provide in-home ABA as well. We really, so like you see, all three of those are listed out right there for you. And our speech and language therapy also do work on some feeding skills as well. And we do have a variety of locations. We actually have 2 new locations in case you all weren't aware. So we do service all of San Diego County, so including North County, so all the way up to Camp Pendleton, all the way down to the border. We have 2 offices in San Diego, one in Carlsbad and one in that Kearney Mesa location. We also have an office in Los Angeles, in the Bay Area as well, and Seattle. And we just recently opened Denver, and then Phoenix is coming soon. So we're excited to open some more locations as well and kind of spread what we're doing to a variety of locations.
Hooray.
And like Katie was saying before, feel free to follow us on our Instagram and Facebook at MeBe Family, and our website listed for you as well. So feel free to follow us to get some more information, and all of the information that you see here will be up on our website as well.
Great. So today's topics, we're going to be targeting some suggestions for how to address this pandemic with your child. We're going to delve into some masks. We get a lot of questions about that, so we made sure we're going to really target that as we can. Additionally, coming up with some supports in the community, how to set your child up for success. Some strategies at home to help support both social distancing and some social skills. And then also socializing. What do we do and what do your kids need to know in this new kind of social existence we find ourselves? So first, with addressing the pandemic, explaining the why can really help with these new changes. We know that a lot of these new changes into our everyday life can be disruptive, and they're especially disruptive for children that thrive on routines and expecting to know what's coming next. And now we've created new challenges. We have new hand washing protocols. We don't just wash our hands for a little bit. We have to wash for 20 plus seconds now. Social distancing. We cannot go up and say hello to our favorite cashier every time we go to the grocery store any longer. We can only wave, and there's other strategies we have to use. And then certainly wearing masks. Wearing masks is a scary thing for some kids. Wearing the masks and also tolerating seeing people that they know wearing those masks as well. So what we try and do is really, suggest to families addressing that it is scary, acknowledging those feelings. Yes, this is a challenge. And really understanding that this is a hard thing to explain. Every day, it seems that there are new challenges and new changes to what is expected. The CDC and the World Health Organizations, they come up with new things for us every day. And so it's important that, we recognize that those changes are challenging for us. And of course, they're going to be challenging for our children. So certainly explaining the why and really having those conversations. Why are we wearing masks? Why are we doing these things? And following your child's lead as best as we can. We realize that there's a fine line between empowering your children to know this information and then also scaring them. So some of the strategies and we don't want to scare them, certainly. So some of the strategies we recommend are things like social stories, maybe providing some visuals for children that give a little bit more understanding and speaks to them in their language. Here's what to expect. We're going to be wearing masks when we go to the grocery store. We're going to be washing our hands. What is COVID? What does that mean? One really lovely resource that has a lot of these social stories already set and ready for you is a great website called autismlittlelearners.com. I'm going to click on it to show you. And essentially what this really wonderful clinician has done, she's an SLP, has created this website that already has downloadable free social stories for your child. So what it means to get our temperatures taken. We know that that's a challenge at the doctor's office. Now we have to do it before we enter the clinic. We have to do it before we go and get our hair cut. Well, not right now because hair salons are closed, but there's lots of places where taking temperature doesn't happen just with the doctor. So it's really important to recognize that. What does it mean to wear a mask? Who wears masks? Social distancing and distance learning. What does that mean? And so she has done a really wonderful job giving kids some opportunities for empowerment in the midst of what feels very confusing and oftentimes very challenging for kids to comprehend. So I highly recommend that. As Katie mentioned at the beginning, we're going to provide a list of resources and that website will be on there. Another thing that we find that's really important is setting expectations. So we've already talked about how we know that social distancing and a lot of these new challenges that kids are experiencing are hard. So setting expectations before we leave the house, we need to make sure we've got our masks, we've got our hand sanitizer, we stay with mom, we don't go running away. All these things are important prior to this and certainly most important now. Recognizing too that hand washing, as I mentioned before, it's changed. We had to maybe wash our hands for 10 seconds before if we were lucky enough to get our kids to tolerate that. Now we're doing it for 20, 30 seconds at a time. And recognizing what our options can be. If hand washing isn't tolerated, and a lot of our children have a hard time going into bathrooms to wash their hands. There's loud noises, it's messy, I don't like the way things feel or a sound or smell in the bathrooms. Recognizing what our options can be. Things like hand sanitizers. There's gel hand sanitizers. Some kids don't like the gel. Well, guess what? We've got hand sanitizers that are liquid. Maybe that's a little bit more tolerable for children. There's hand sanitizing wipes that kids can use that might feel a little bit more familiar to them. So giving children options when maybe right now they don't tolerate the traditional hand washing and the things that we need, recognizing where they're at and giving them opportunities to still feel successful. And then also recognizing the difference, the new challenges with social distancing. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in some of the next slides, but really just explaining the whys and the hows to kids can really help with some buy-in too, when they're not at all really tolerating these new changes. Masks, masks, masks. So my suggestion to a lot of families is find the mask that fits your needs. We know now, more than we did when we started with all of this in March, there's a lot of mask options. And so it's some things to consider here are what kind of masks are available? Do we tolerate the over the ear masks? I've got the ones that go over your ear like this behind my ear, but maybe I don't like the way it feels behind my ear. How about the ones that tie behind your head? This mask. this mask ties behind your head, and some of these that are shown here. There's other options in terms of materials. This mask right here, this pink mask that this boy's wearing on the bottom right, is a silicone mask. That feels different. Maybe that's easier to tolerate. I myself have a variety of different masks because I don't quite know which one I like best yet. And now, since we're going into the community even more, it's really important to figure out what works well for us. These are a really good standard, but these are also, they don't feel that great. They're kind of itchy. They're really stiff. Some masks are this kind of trifold mask here that you can adjust on your face. That's a little bit easier, but maybe those are too big. There's form-fitting masks. I've got this mask that has the space for my nose to fit. The important thing here is recognizing that not one mask is going to fit all of your needs. And so empowering kids to feel as if they have some choice in the matter might support them in understanding and why they have to wear the mask and having them tolerate it a little bit longer. Some other alternatives that are out there currently, and I know there's some discussion as of late. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. We recognize that not all of the suggestions on this slide might be the best ways that are suggested for face coverings, but it's important to recognize that they exist and why they could be supportive for your child. So things like face shields. So we've got this kiddo down here wearing a face shield. We know that sometimes this is too much to ask for kids to wear a mask on their face and tolerate the feeling behind their ears or on their head. A face shield could be one option for your child as a step towards wearing a face covering. Face shields are nice because you can see. People working with your children might be wearing face masks already because that feels a little bit comfortable. You can see people's faces, their expressions, and it's not so cumbersome. When you move your head, it doesn't shift on your face. But we also recognize too that face shields don't offer the same level of protection as we recognize that masks do and other face coverings. So I was actually just looking around today and found this one website has created these little extenders on face shields at the bottom here to kind of eliminate some of the concern that what happens is that you're able to breathe underneath and through the sides of your face shield. So what they've created is a Velcro attachment with a washable little cloth that sits in front of you that eliminates that spread of germs. This could be an option. Face shields could also be that step towards wearing a face covering. So I can tolerate wearing a face shield, but as soon as I put a mask on, it's really uncomfortable. So, but let's start with what's successful, and what's successful is a face shield. Some other options might also be these gator masks. They're like scarves. You can wear them around your neck and then you just pull them up as you need them. We're now also learning that gaiters might not be as safe or protective as we once thought. So I don't recommend this in the long term, but a face gaiter mask is more comfortable for a lot of our children that do have challenges with the tactile sensitivities or wearing things on and around their face. So this could be one step towards wearing a more traditional mask. And certainly what's nice about some of the masks that are now options available is gaiters. They're real fun. They've got some great prints. This one gets to be a panda. Up here you can see that there's some other options for kids that make it a little bit more fun and child friendly. So recognizing the differences and what's available, and also being aware too that masks, it's a challenge for we understand it's an expectation. Wherever you feel on the topic of wearing masks is different, but we understand that masks are a requirement right now. And so recognizing too that masks can be uncomfortable for a lot of different reasons. And maybe masks that have these little filters like the N95 masks are now more and more available, might make things a little bit easier to breathe. So if you are able to locate those, that might make it a little bit easier to tolerate wearing a mask too. Just today, I was working with mask tolerance on one of my clients, and his biggest complaint today was, I can't breathe when I wear my mask. And I understand that. And so a lot of what we were doing was wearing a mask and practicing breathing while wearing the mask, because it is different. And we found a mask. We had a couple options for him, and we found one that worked for him.
Yeah, and I think something else, sorry, I'm just going to chime in 1 second. And I think something else to keep in mind too is, as you guys know, like today and probably the rest of the week is going to be very hot. Under those masks get really hot really quickly. And so keeping that in mind too, that like, you know, maybe your kid's favorite mask is one that actually is going to make them really hot and uncomfortable. So knowing that you have like backups available too, in case that one is really hard for your kid to wear when they're running around outside in your, or you guys are going in the community and it is really hot outside.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it is going to be hot these next couple of days. And then recognizing too how to adapt your mask. So now we got these masks, what do we do with them? There's a couple of really simple strategies that you may have already seen at this point in time, which is for one, these kind of mask extenders. So the feeling of the mask behind the ears tends to be noxious for a lot of our kids. They do not tolerate that feeling. It doesn't feel great. So one way to support them is using a mask extender. Or in this case, there's a couple other options. Maybe your child's favorite headband, adding a button there, and then eliminating that need for the child to have it on their ears. For boys or for girls, an option could be putting a button on a baseball cap. Sometimes what happens with masks is, whether it's the mask behind the ear or the mask that goes behind the head, it's constant pressure in one spot. That can feel really uncomfortable. So things like headbands and baseball caps and other things that the child might tolerate a little bit better helps, because what it does is it distributes the feeling on the head and maybe distracts a bit from that maybe less than comfortable option. So that's another consideration here. Certainly ways to tie masks. So the tying behind the head, you could practice tying. This person did a crisscross tie where they tie the bottom up and the top down. That makes the mask a little bit tighter, but what happens here is it also opens up the side to ventilate a little bit easier. So that's one option. Decorating face shields, that makes it really creative and fun and interesting to make it a little bit more tolerable for children to wear them. There's also masks with adjusters on the ears. So if we need it to, if it's too tight, trying to make it a little bit loose and vice versa. One really great thing I saw when I was scrolling on Facebook a couple weeks ago is this great video of this kiddo, if it pulls up, where the mom was so clever with how she adapted the face mask.
Buddy.
Let's
So
turn
take
this off.
your
So what we notice here is mask off, lanyard on. He keeps that mask. A big concern for kids out in public is, okay, we got the mask on. As soon as they get an opportunity, they're going to take it off and throw it. This mom came up with a great solution. Let's use a lanyard and keep it attached to them at all times. I thought this was a really valuable option and a very cost-effective one too. I don't want the mask on, take it off. One less thing for parents to have to worry about. And certainly one less thing for you to have to carry as you're carrying all the other things you need to carry, like your purse, diaper bags, fidget toys, visual schedules, other things that parents have to carry. Giving your child some options to be a little bit more in charge of the mask in public might support them tolerating it a little bit longer. A big thing we talk about too in not only just adapting the mask and the different types of masks you can choose is, now what do we do? So we've got the masks, how do we work on wearing it? One thing to start with is break it down into steps. So the act of putting on a mask can feel overwhelming. There's a lot of different factors of putting a mask on. So we have to put it on our face, make sure it's positioned appropriately, wrap it around our ear, make sure it's comfy cozy, and away we go. That's a lot of steps for a kid who's already like, no thanks on the masks, I am not interested. So supporting the child and breaking things down into steps, maybe you positioning the mask and allowing them to put it over their ear might support them a little bit more successfully with wearing the masks. Another option too is practicing. We're going to practice wearing the mask today. So a lot of us still can't really go a lot of different places, but maybe whenever we go outside or go to the garage or go to the car to grab something really quickly, we have an option to practice. Let's put our mask on and then move along. Modeling. If your child's wearing a mask, you get to wear one too. So you can see down here, there's a couple different ways that we might suggest modeling. Certainly parents wearing masks at the same time your child does. The other option too is your favorite stuffed animal or your favorite, toy or whoever, they get to wear masks. Maybe maybe we're going to fabricate a little piece of paper that's going to go over Elmo's face. And now he's wearing a mask. Oh, you better match Elmo because Elmo's wearing a mask. Let's go get your mask. Recognizing too that there's already some things that are out that your child might be interested in. PJ Masks. Masks is in the name. You can't go wrong there. So there's some options here too with recognizing what can help your child be successful. A lot of the times what we do is we practice these supports in home and then bring them out into the community. At home or in the clinic or places like that that are a little bit more structured, help support success before we go out into the community, which already has its own challenges. And then certainly there's ways to play games with masks. I personally love relay races. So if there's opportunities to go grab a mask, put it on, and then we're gonna run around an obstacle course and come back, we're wearing the mask the whole time, and we have an opportunity to be engaging and make it fun too.
Yeah, and then I think too, in terms of like modeling masks, having your kid practice that in front of the mirror too is a great way, so they can actually see their mask being worn, what it looks like, especially if you're having them wear one that's like a preferred character or something like that. If they can't see it because they're wearing it, so if you have it in front of the mirror, they might be more likely to do it. And then do like a game, like I've done with kids before. Okay, we're gonna try it for 10 seconds today. Okay, we made 10 seconds the next time. Let's try it for 20 seconds. I bet you can't beat your time from last time. To try and make it into that kind of fun game to increase the amount of time they're actually wearing the mask. I also see we had a question about, can masks be added to a goal to be worked on during ABA? Of course. Definitely working on desensitizing the mask and working on tolerating the mask for longer durations of time can definitely be worked on in your ABA sessions. So definitely talk to your supervisor, about that if that's something that's challenging for your kiddo, especially because, as we know, masks aren't going away, and as right now we're moving toward distance learning again in the fall, we probably at some point are going to be moving to an in-person schooling, and school might require them to wear masks as well. So even if they aren't going into the community right now, they will probably eventually need to be able to wear masks in those different kind of settings as well.
Yeah, it's the new occupation. It's the new meaningful activity we never knew we had to work on. So absolutely, this should be part of everyone's program if it's not already.
And we had one comment come in as well. So something that worked for one family was using a paper clip behind the head to help from getting their ears pulled forward. Something else to use to adapt the masks.
So smart.
So I'm going to chat a little bit about masks in the community, and kind of, once we start practicing, of course, like Angela said, in the home, then we move to the community, because we don't want to start with our hardest environment first. So first practicing at home and then moving it outward. So we want to start with the first community outing as something that's a little bit more remote. So you won't be coming into contact with a lot of people in case your child can't tolerate the mask being on for a longer duration of time. So some areas, that could be an open grass area, a park. I put a park with no playground because kids can't go on playgrounds right now, and that could cause other behaviors too. So going somewhere where they're going to be a big open space would be the best for like that first outing. If your child removes your mask before you leave the location, then there'll be minimal risk, again, if you're in that more remote location. And we also don't want to make it, punitive for your child too if they're taking their mask off. You don't want to be like, oh no, put your mask on. You want to make sure you reinforce them for wearing their mask. And once they put it back on, you're like, oh, good job putting your mask back on. So that way too, we're focusing on what it is we want them to do, not what we don't want them to do. And then eventually work your way toward those more populated areas. The first few outings, you might want to go during those non-peak hour times. Going to Target at 4 or 5 o'clock usually is pretty tough in terms of the number of people that are there. I know I get overwhelmed sometimes when there's a lot of people in the stores, and also there might be a line to actually get into the store. So then you have to deal with also now waiting outside the store, and you still have to keep your mask on while you're waiting outside. So definitely start with those non-peak hours to have your child be successful, because the most important thing that we want is for your child to be successful with doing this out in the community, so that way we can reinforce it and then kind of move forward from there. And again, then less people that your child is coming into contact with in case they can't keep their mask on for that duration of that outing. And then reward your child. So kind of like I was talking about before, we really want to make sure that your child's getting rewarded for what it is that they're doing, because wearing the mask for a long duration of time is really hard. And you want to start really small. So have your child practice wearing the mask for a really short duration of time. It might be as short as 5 seconds, and that's okay. Celebrate that success. They did it for that 5 seconds, great. And now, next time we're going to try and go a little bit longer than that 5 seconds. You also want to set up ahead of time something that's motivating for your child. So it could be a preferred activity, a preferred toy, a preferred food item. So I have pictures on the bottom here of YouTube Kids. I mean, YouTube, a lot of our kids love YouTube, so maybe they get to watch their favorite video clip, or maybe they get a handful of M&Ms for being able to tolerate the mask for a longer duration of time. And then once your child keeps that mask on for that designated amount of time, then you're going to give them access to whatever that predetermined item was. Another thing I like to use a lot is like a treasure chest or a toy chest, because it's kind of an element of surprise as well for your kiddo, to be able to keep them motivated too for those things that they're going to be working for. And then again, like I said, slowly increase the duration of time that they're wearing the mask. I also like to make it a game. So kind of beat your time from last time. I know kids really like to do that, make kind of a competition. It's also if you have multiple children in the home, it could be a great way for you to try and get your kids to kind of, beat each other in terms of how long they can each kind of wear the mask for. So that's a great way to kind of utilize it as well.
There's a couple of resources we are going to provide this too, but I thought it was some good options to include here. Really the why and the getting the buy-in from kiddos is a really valuable way to get them to tolerate masks. So if you don't have the sewing skills, like I don't, there are some really great resources online that already have some prefabricated masks. This particular brand has blank masks and fabric markers. So it can be a family event. We're all gonna color the masks. We're gonna make it whatever we want it to look like. And then those are our masks and we get to wear them. And it's really special because the child gets to do the coloring and the creating themselves. There's a company called Cub Coats that you can match your mask to the toy that they sell. So that's another fun way. It's another prefabricated option for those of us that may not have the skills to make, sew. And then one thing for our older kiddos, they might really like the idea of making masks, the no-sew making masks, where essentially you can turn this sock into a face mask. And there's a really great YouTube tutorial on just how to do that. I, for one, enjoy following recipes. And I think this is kind of a recipe in the same way in that we can follow some guidelines, some YouTube tutorials of how to do something and then make it our own. So, choosing what sock that you want, obviously a clean sock and maybe a sock that lost its pair in the dryer could be a great option. And then just a pair of scissors, that's all you need to make these really great masks. And it's another opportunity for kids to have some buy-in during and some control or some feeling of control during this really confusing time.
So a little bit more about preparing for outings. Sometimes community environments can be really tough for a lot of our kids, especially when there's a lot of unpredictability. And what they now were predicting is now changed, right, from what it was pre-COVID. So it's really important for any outing you're going to go on with your child to make sure that you're ready to go and think ahead of your child. Think ahead of, we always go to Target and my kid always wants something. Target is notorious for having all those little stands right at the end of the aisles that your kids love to go and grab things from. And so now, but if they touch it, now we've also contaminated our hands. And now we have to sanitize our hands because we touched these things. So kind of thinking ahead of your child too, of like maybe we're going to go on the aisle that the self-checkout aisle maybe doesn't have as many things for us to touch, or maybe we're going to make sure that we go in that earlier time slot so that way we don't have to wait in a longer line. So there's not as much access to those things. Also think about those possible triggers in those environments as well. So different sounds, different smells. Luckily, we're wearing masks, so smells might be a little bit filtered through the mask, which is really nice. And then also denied access, like I said, to those preferred items or locations. We might be maybe you're going to McDonald's and they want to go into the play place, but the play place is now closed. Making sure that they know ahead of time that it's going to look a little bit different than when they went last time. And then assess the location prior to going with your child. I really love doing that because it's really nice to know where all the exits are. What happens if your kid took their mask off? Maybe now they're having a tantrum putting their mask back on, and now you need to get out of that location because you're exposing yourself, you're exposing your kid to maybe potential virus, and so you want to make sure you get out of there as soon as possible. So definitely assess the environment to know where your exits are and knowing where those things are that could potentially trigger your child as well.
Especially kind of adding to that too, Megan, a lot of the places that we're familiar with going to, Target, grocery stores, things like that, they also look very different. And, we had talked even before this about how, some of the previous exits we don't have access to, or we can only go one way down an aisle and we might be used to going another way. So just really recognizing too that those changes happen and assessing that and really pointing those out to your child can be really helpful to prepare for going out into the public.
So what I like to do, like I said, my background was in community-based ABA prior to coming to MeBe. So we used to bring backpacks with us all the time. I love having backpacks, kind of like a ready bag, kind of ready to go with you at any time. We would put things in there like headphones that you could use with or without music. There are some bigger headphones that you can see on the right-hand side to kind of cancel out some noise in case that is tough for your child. You could also just put regular headphones that could be like they're listening to music as well, to kind of help within those environments that might be a little bit more crowded or a little bit noisier. Bringing sensory fidgets as well is also great. Another thing to redirect your child to if they, are, drawn to some of those displays, and we don't want them to be touching those displays right now. Bringing some of their favorite activities to engage in while waiting. So again, you might have to wait in a line to get into a store. I think the lines have gotten a little bit better than when COVID first started, but there are still some lines sometimes, or you might even be waiting in line just to check out. So bringing some things they can engage in, while they're doing that waiting. Preferred food items are also great, even though you probably won't be able to do that until after you get out of the store because they're going to be wearing the mask. But always good to have, maybe it's something your child is going to be working for at the end of the outing or something like that. So great to have those on hand as well. And then visuals. Angela kind of talked a little bit earlier about visuals and having, visual schedules, visual supports. We all use visuals all the time. You stop at a stop sign's a visual for you. We use it really naturally throughout our environment. And so we really want to make sure our kids have access to extra visuals to be able to help navigate them through their environment. So I'll talk a little bit later about kind of social distancing and what those different visuals look like as well, but also some visual schedules or social stories. Really great to kind of prepare your child to know like what they're going to be doing and how it's going to be different than the last time they were there. And then support. So I always recommend too that you have another adult go with you for support, because it might be really challenging to get your kid to stay in the store for the duration of time, to keep the mask on for the duration of time. And now we're dealing with a big tantrum, and now you're trying to get out of there, but you still have stuff in your cart, and now you're trying to figure out how to maneuver all these things. So anyone that you could bring with you for support would be great. It could be, your spouse, it could be an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent. Also too, if you are receiving ABA, definitely get your ABA supervisor to go with you too. I love going on outings with families to be able to help support in those more challenging moments. So I think, when we do have those challenging moments in the community, we tend to not want to go to those environments because we're like, okay, I already know that my kid's going to have a tantrum if we go here, so I'm just not going to go there. We really want to make sure that, we are still trying to go to those environments because, our kids, like to go to those places. And so we want to give them the opportunity to go to those places, pre-COVID and also during COVID too. So definitely talk to your ABA supervisor too if you want some support with going to those locations. Visuals. So like I said before, visuals are really helpful within community environments. They're really portable. You can put them right in your purse. You can use a variety of different ones that are out there. You can see the one that's the visual that's listed here is one that's on a key ring, which is great. You could put it right on your bag. You could put it right on your kid's belt buckle, and you can just kind of scroll through what visual you need within that moment. Like I said, they're really easy to use. So again, this one is like you're just flipping to whatever visual you need. You kind of redirect your kid right back to it by pointing to whatever it is they need to be doing, and really helpful to redirect. So instead of you verbally redirecting your kiddo, okay, we need to have a quiet voice, you need to have a quiet voice, or we need to stay next to mommy, you can just refer back to that visual, and it kind of gives them an extra added support as well. Social stories, we kind of chatted a little bit about earlier as well. They can be used for any community outing. I really like to use them for also events that happen outside of a typical routine. So, grocery stores we tend to go to on a regular basis, but there are some other events that we go to that maybe don't happen so routine. So, the dentist you go to once every, 3 to 6 months. Getting your hair cut, you might not go quite as frequently as you would going to the grocery store. And so working on those things outside of routine too, those social stories can be really helpful for that. And so basically what social stories are, in case you don't know what they are already, they're just simple sentences that are paired with words, help to understand the expectations. So it can be really simple depending on what level your kid is at. They could also be just pictures that you're just explaining as well. You can use that as well. And they help to explain what might happen in an environment. So again, we might get to Target and we might have to wait in line. So really good to put that in that social story ahead of time so your kid knows this might happen, because like we said, things are really different now than they were pre-COVID. It helps to understand what might be different and possibly unexpected within those community environments. I definitely recommend reviewing it a few days leading up to that outing. So maybe like 3 days before you're going to go, you kind of go through the social story one time, and the next day you're going to go through it again, kind of leading up. So that way it's not the day of, you're trying to explain to them what's going to happen. It can be really overwhelming if you're kind of explaining and giving all that information kind of all at once. And then definitely bring it with you on your outing. I like to have parents bring it with them in the car. They're kind of reviewing it right before they're going in. So kind of working on, okay, again, this is what we're going to do when we go into the store. This is where we have to stand. This is where we have to wait. This is what we can do when we're in the store. And then you can also use visual schedules. So ahead of the time, I really like to have parents go to the location and take their own pictures. I like using actual pictures rather than like pictures that are from Google Images. Of course, you can still use Google Image pictures, but if they're from the actual location you're going to, it's going to be more meaningful for your kid, because it's actually going to be what they see when they go there. So I would definitely recommend taking some pictures ahead of time. And then you can actually interchange that schedule around as needed. So you could also do it as like a visual list of things you need to get within the store. You can also then interchange it. You can use Velcro, so that way too you can change the order if needed, because sometimes unexpected things happen for us too in the store and they don't have the item we need, or we now have to change what we're doing now because that area of the store is too crowded and now we got to go to a different area of the store. So it's really nice to be able to have that flexibility within the schedule to change it while still providing that visual support for your kid. And then also first thens. So we really like to use also first then language. And so first then visuals are really helpful as well. They're very simple visuals for what your child needs to do first in order to get access to that preferred item or preferred activity. So it could be, first, we're getting a banana and then we're getting out. It might be that we're only getting that one item on that first grocery trip visit, and that might be all you're going to do, and that's great. But you can use that first then visual for your kid to know what the expectation is. You can use this with any activity, including community activities or activities within the home as well. We use them in ABA all the time. And then you can use actual pictures from the location. Like I said, I really like using them instead of using Google Images, but again, you could use both. And so here you'll see a couple different visuals. We have the first one is a social story of going out to the grocery store. So you can see there's some simple sentences with some pictures associated with it. The one in the middle is an actual visual schedule throughout the whole day. So you'll see they have different times associated with it and what it is that they're doing during those times. And the last one is that first then visual. Visuals in the community. So there's been quite a few new different visuals around now because of COVID, and kind of what does all of that mean? So I'm sure you guys have all been to the store to know that there are markers on the ground to identify where you should be standing and what social distancing should be taking place. Every store tends to have a different marker for that. So making sure that you know ahead of time, like what that marker is going to be for the store you're going to. I know some places, they just do like an X with like red tape of where you should be standing. Some of it is an actual circle where you should be standing. As you can see here, there's about 15 different ones that are listed here for where you should be. They also might have physical barriers in the store set up. So those actual plexiglass, as well, knowing that you should be standing behind the plexiglass and that you can't, like Angela said, kind of go and hug your favorite store employee that some of our kids like to do. And then also use the cart when you are in the store as something your child can hold on to and use as a reference point. So I think it's really hard for our kids sometimes. You stay, okay, we have to stay with mom. Okay, stay next to mom. And it's really hard for our kids sometimes because you're moving and they're moving, and it's really hard for them to know what should I be doing, where should I be standing. But if you have that cart, it's something that they can actually hold on to and use it as like a reference point. It also can help with social distancing as well. So now you know, okay, my kid is at least a cart length away from someone else as well. So great use for that as well. And it also can help them refraining from touching other items, because maybe you have them holding the handle part of the cart, you're standing right behind them. You can also keep track of what they're touching, so they're not kind of grabbing things off the shelf and things like that as well. And then celebrate the success. So kind of like I said before, the most important thing is to get your child successful in the community and being able to adhere to social distancing and wearing their mask. So make that first outing short. You really want to set realistic expectations for that first outing. It might just be that you walk up to the front of the store and that's it, wearing the mask. And that's great, and that's all we needed to do. And maybe the next time you actually walk into the store, you're in the store for a minute and then you walk out. And it might be a longer process in order to get your kid to be successful with doing a full outing out in the community, out in, you know, the grocery store or wherever you're going. But really celebrate that success and be realistic with the expectations you're setting. You know, we don't want to be trying to go and buy, you know, 30 things at Costco on your kid's first outing, because Costco definitely overwhelms me as well. So I want to make sure that you're, you know, setting those realistic expectations. And then once your child has success with that short outing, and then gradually increase that amount of time. So again, you might only that first time get that one item and then pay. The next time maybe you're getting 3 items and then paying. And then again, don't start with your child's most challenging environment. You want to work your way up to that challenging environment with first having success in other environments. So, you know, instead of going, you know, maybe Costco is your kid's favorite place. I mean, there's free samples and things like that, right? So maybe Costco is your kid's favorite place to go. Probably don't start there, maybe if it's a more challenging place, but maybe you start, you know, going to somewhere a little bit smaller, you know, maybe not as many people. You want to work your way up to those challenging environments. And then try and find environments that are similar to the ones your kid's having difficulty with. So like I said, maybe Costco is a really tough place for your kid. You want to work on similar kind of grocery stores that are maybe set up in a similar way. And then the most important thing, like I said, is success in the community. So you want to provide that immediate reinforcement for any success your kid has. So again, they get out of the car, they're wearing their mask, they walk up to the front entrance, great. They get that preferred activity right away. Immediate reinforcement is definitely the most important. And then keep in mind that your child might require reinforcement throughout the outing and not just at the end. Giving that constant praise also to your child as they're staying with you, as they're maintaining that social distancing, and they've got their mask on. They're doing all 3 things that we want them to be doing. So definitely make sure that you're giving that constant reinforcement throughout so that they know that they are doing what they are supposed to be doing as well.
Yeah, just to kind of tack onto that too, Megan, like, you know, that importance of celebrating the success too. It can be tricky because we know that the ultimate goal for your child is to wear the mask at all times, or to be out in the community and being successful in the community at all times. And it's these little steps towards that goal that the child needs to feel success in, to know that they're on the right path. And I think that's a really valuable, important thing to mention, you know, to really highlight here, is that even the tiniest of successes are still successes, and they should be really celebrated because it's a lot of work for you and them. So we hope that that will help build to more challenging skills.
So social distancing. So of course, like we said before, we really want to start working on these skills within the home first, and then move into outings. So we're going to practice social distancing in the home between you and your child. Might sound a little funny at first, of like actually distancing from your own kid, but we want to really work on practicing that. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is that you're able to control, you know, where you're moving, so that you can actually control where they need to be standing, because people in the community, they're going to keep moving, right? So your kid's going to have to keep moving and maintain distance, you know, as other people in the community are moving as well. So one thing you could do is you could put items on the floor. You could use preferred items, like a favorite, like character towel, or, you know, a piece of paper with a bunch of their favorite stickers on it, or something like that. And that's actually where they know they need to stand and maintain that distance. And then you are actually moving away from them, so you can actually show them, oh, okay, like this is 6 feet. This is we're supposed to be standing 6 feet away from people when we go, you know, to the grocery store and things like that. And kind of make it fun for them. You could also make it where they're trying to like jump between, you know, different towels or things like that. You're going to reinforce by giving them access again to that preferred item or activity once they're able to maintain that appropriate distance away from you. And then you can increase the amount of time your child's required to stay distanced from you. So it might be, okay, we're able to stay only for a minute because now we're kind of getting restless and we need to do something else. And now work on increasing that amount of time. Also great to use siblings as well to assist with, okay, if they're kind of learning to start to now move, you know, within the home from you or from, you know, the sibling, now you can actually use them too to kind of help with that distance. And then also using your pets. Pets are a great one too, because obviously nothing's going to happen if they get close to your pet. But now they have to work on someone actually moving toward them. And now they have to work on, okay, now, now, you know, Joey is coming towards me. I got to make sure that I get away from Joey. And so kind of how do you maintain that? Because I think it is really hard to, I think in general, like I mean, there's times I'm out in the store and I'm like, am I 6 feet away from this person? And it's really hard to make that judgment. So giving any kind of reference or like physical point for them to stand will really help to, you know, having it be like a full cart, 2 cart lengths away from someone, giving them that visual reference point will really help with that too.
So to kind of piggyback on what Megan is mentioning, you know, recognizing too that a lot of these activities are happening in the home first before we start practicing social distancing in the community. We know that a lot of our kiddos have challenges with recognizing their proximity to other people, whether it be that they want to be too close or too far away. And so now we've also then added this added layer of 6 feet, and that can feel very abstract. I know when I'm in the grocery store, 6 feet to some people is very different than 6 feet to me. So just even recognizing too that, as like Megan was mentioning, that there's a lot of variability out in the environment. So coming up with fun ways to practice these skills without being like 6 feet, 6 feet. Not that any of you guys are doing that, but certainly recognizing the importance of making it fun and also adding in different layers to support success. One activity that I came up with or suggest is coming up with maybe like a social distancing pool noodle tag. We're lucky that it's summertime right now, and so pool noodles are easy to come by. So one strategy could be is that you're playing tag with the pool noodles. One person has one end of the pool, that one end of their pool noodle, and the other person has another end of their pool noodle. And your job is to tag their pool noodle, and the 2 pool noodles together is approximately 6 feet away. And you can make it fun that, you know, points are only awarded if you tag the noodles, not the person, because obviously tagging the person with a pool noodle is really fun. But recognizing the value in the distance of the pool noodles gives you opportunities to practice that 6 feet away. What it also does is it gives you some visuals. So you've got the pool noodle in your hand, and then it gives you some physical cues as well. So I know that I'm this far away from someone, that gives me 6 feet. And we're going to really practice. Oh, don't get too close, because that's before 6 feet. Get me with the pool noodle. Some other options could be with that particular activity is maybe there's some tape or a marker that indicates where you hold, because I know kids like to just grab the pool noodle and do whatever they want with it. And so providing some additional visual supports that can help them be successful with really understanding and honoring the true importance of practicing that 6 feet distance. Another game is maybe hula hoop freeze dance. I know that the dollar store and some other places like that have some really inexpensive hula hoops. And so maybe placing the hula hoops on the floor and having each person in the home be 2 to 3 hula hoops apart. And then what that hula hoop is that's your base. And so you'll play music and you'll dance, and when the music stops, you freeze. But a lot of times what happens is that when we dance, we move around really, really far away. And so that physical boundary with the hula hoop on the floor provides that visual representation. This is where I'm staying. And notice how I'm 3 of these away from my sibling, or that, and this is where I need to be in order to practice that physical distancing. So this helps practice some of that body awareness. It cues into the environment. So where I am in relationship to the hula hoop, in relationship to the dog, in relationship to sister, whoever might be there, recognizing those cues in the environment and really paying attention to that and even calling it out. Oh, I noticed when you were freezing, you went outside of your hula hoops. Whoops. Get back in there. Let's try again. This time, stay inside the hula hoop and I'll stay in mine. And giving these fun, clever, unique opportunities to practice these skills in a way that there might be a little bit more buy-in from the kiddos is a really great opportunity with these two. And then certainly moving to outdoors. So as Megan mentioned, you know, certainly we want to start places that are going to be more successful and then move to things that might be more challenging, like grocery stores and other busy places. Right now, because a lot of us can't go to the places we want to do, there may be opportunities to go on walks. Maybe we take the dog for a walk, or maybe we are going on walks around our neighborhood more so than we were before. So I know in my neighborhood, we have a lot of people that park on the street. And so when we go for walks with my dogs, I walk by a lot of cars, and that could be a good visual cue for a distance between other people that might be taking their dogs for a walk. We're going to be a car's length distance away, or 2 cars. Notice how far that is. I'm on this end of the car and our neighbor's on the other side. Or mailboxes. Oh, look, if you're at the mailbox, look how far away they are. Recognizing those automatic visual cues in the environment can really help support some success for kids who may not be aware of their surroundings. And so it gives opportunities, these more natural opportunities, while we're going on walks or while we're going outside, to recognize where I am in relationship to other people. And that's a challenge. And so giving these subtle opportunities embedded throughout the day might give your child more successes and more awareness of, oh, I need to be aware of not only where I am, but where everybody else is too. And like I said, using visuals in the environment really helps support understanding. 6 feet feels very abstract, but I know that a car is really big. Trucks are really big. So if I'm on one side of the truck, I need to be that far away from someone else when I'm out and about. And, recognizing what that looks like and feels like for kids can be really empowering for them too. And then socializing while social distancing. So we recognize this is a bigger part of our life now than it ever has been. And, online really, as it stands currently, is the safest way to engage with friends and family, as we're doing today in this webinar. And I think recognizing the barriers with our kids is really valuable and important, especially for our older kiddos who might say things like, it's not the same. I know I can say that too. I want to see my friends in person, but we can't. This is the challenge that we're here. So here's some opportunities to practice recognizing, yep, this is hard, but we've got all these really great tools at our disposal. And here's some new ways to interact with our friends that maybe we didn't consider before. Also, too, recognizing facial expressions and masks. When we wear masks, it changes the way our faces look. And so a lot of times we only have the opportunity to look at our eyes and not our whole mouth. And when we're working on things like understanding emotions and social skills, recognizing what our bodies look like and what other people's bodies look like is really valuable and important. And if we can't see half of someone's face, that becomes challenging to recognize, are they happy? Are they sad? Are they mad? Are they frustrated? Are they confused? And we know for a lot of our kiddos, especially on the autism spectrum, looking at people's eyes can be tricky. And so supporting that and that way, that taking away the mouth really makes it hard for them to read facial expressions. So a lot of times for in occupational therapy, for example, we focus a lot on what other nonverbal communication could be indicators of emotion. So for example, if I'm sad, not only is my face sad, but my eyes are down, my shoulders are forward, and my body is moving really slowly. If I'm happy, my eyes are open, my mouth is smiling, and my body feels open and awake. So even having those opportunities to practice, what does this person look like? Whether it be practicing it with people in the house, or maybe practicing it when you're out in public, going on those nighttime evening walks, or going to the grocery store and taking a peek and looking, I wonder what they're feeling, because it's really hard to see that when their mask is covering a half of their face. And 2, also empowering others, maybe around your child, to recognize, it's really hard for them to understand if you're happy or sad. So if you can also share with them, grandma and grandpa, if you can share with them, I'm smiling. You can't see my mouth, but I'm smiling. I am so happy. That might be other opportunities for kids to feel more comfortable in this new world of masks. The other thing too is, recognizing that masks make people look different. And so one strategy I was thinking of before is maybe grabbing like a photo album, old school photo albums, and grabbing maybe a piece of paper and covering people's faces as if they were wearing masks, and seeing what people look like in your life when they have part of their face covered, and seeing if that might be supportive. Because I know a lot of kids may also feel uncomfortable. Mom and dad are wearing masks. I don't like it. Take that mask off. And that's not an option in this new kind of reality that we're in. And I think it's really valuable to give opportunities to practice that. And recognizing the challenges and the barriers there. Yeah, this is hard work. We're going to figure this out together, because it's even hard for me to know if people are smiling or if they're mad or sad or confused with masks on. And then also looking at what other opportunities there are to socialize while also physically distancing. So Zoom and FaceTime, those have been really helpful pieces. I'm curious, I don't know if there's been other platforms that some of the parents in this webinar specifically have been using or find successful outside of that. We'd love to know that. We can certainly provide that in our resources page as well. But Zoom and FaceTime is what we find to be really helpful and something that is really satisfying to get that socialization piece in a very safe way. So if anyone has anything, feel free. Yeah.
We have a question. It's like,
great.
So someone asked, what do I do when my daughter doesn't look at the person in the iPad as a person they are communicating with? She talks to them like they are on the phone, yet she can show them stuff. However, what the person wants or needs her to do doesn't register. Facebook has a kid messenger. Yeah, so I think if you're looking at it in terms of like actually like attending to the person on the screen, I think there's a couple different things you could do, and Angela, feel free to chime in afterward if you want. Is you can always put like a little like marker on where they should be looking. I think it is really hard too. I mean, I find myself even doing this during this webinar is like I'm looking at Angela, she's talking on my part of the screen and not actually looking at the actual camera, right? So you could also put like a little sticker of like your kids like you know, favorite character, or just like a little piece of tape of where they should be looking into the camera, so that it kind of helps them to like redirect and orient themselves. And then I think Angela's going to talk a little bit about like different like games and things that you could do through actual Zoom and FaceTime that might be able to get your child to like engage more with the other person instead of and actually like showing them things instead of actually just like thinking about it as like a phone call.
Yeah, it really is tricky because I think especially with, you know, a lot of our kiddos are growing up in the smartphone world where videos are readily available and YouTube is you know, life for a lot of us. And I think that we're very accustomed to watching and not necessarily having this back and forth interaction and engagement opportunity with the screen. So things, especially if we're talking about like distance learning, telehealth with, you know, different therapists and things like that, that is challenging. And you know, one thing I know as a clinician using telehealth as one of my primary ways to work with a lot of my clients is to really support engagement wherever we can. And so a lot of times, especially for our first and several visits where telehealth is maybe new to the child and the family, is we'll do things like, show me around your house. I want to see, I'm this person that's engaging with you. I'm going to show you what's in my house. And I have 2 dogs, and sometimes that's really exciting for them to see. Or, you know, this is my room. Isn't this interesting? Last time I saw you, I was in the clinic, you know. So giving opportunities to really be checked in with the environments and the backgrounds. And that's certainly one way to do it. It's tricky. This, you know, this 2-dimensional world of online engagement and interaction is challenging. And so coming up with what motivates and sparks interest is usually the first way I know and I use to really get engagement as best I can, because we are so accustomed to sitting and watching and not necessarily having this reciprocal engagement in this Zoom world that we're in. Does that help answer some of that question? And let me know if you'd like more clarification. I'm happy to. We can brainstorm a little bit at the end too, if we'd like. Socializing with peers is a thing that's kind of missing too for a lot of our older kiddos. So there's some really great board games online. There's freeboardgames.org. You can share a link and then you can play on the board game. You can have a Zoom call. I do this with some of my older kiddos. I get a Zoom call so you can see their faces, but you're playing a game on the computer. I know there's loads out there. I think there's a lot of like those smart features are available on like Xbox and PlayStation, if that's something that you guys have in the home and maybe are currently using. Show and tell is great. I kind of mentioned that a little bit before with my in my telehealth sessions with my clients. We might do some show and tell with friends. Bring something from your home that's uniquely yours and share that, and let's talk about it. Maybe we can have multiple people on this Zoom call and have opportunities to play or show or see, oh, this person's doing something different. Scavenger hunts with other people on in Zoom is a really great opportunity to giving them, bring the computer, bring the tablet, or bring the phone to something in your house that's red. And then we're gonna go and find that thing that's red. And then, oh, what do you have that's red? So those are some really fun opportunities to engage a little bit more socially with peers or other people around the same age. And then last, we mentioned phone calls before too, but I think a lot of our kids don't recognize that these things right here make phone calls. So a lot of times, even recognizing too that let's call someone. Wouldn't that be cool to call mom at work? Wouldn't that be interesting if we could call grandma and grandpa and they're talking on the phone? So those are some opportunities that are that could be valuable if not already being used. Was there a question?
I think he said that it was a good response. He was going to try the sticker thing.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, with this, you know, social distancing and like using these different platforms, like definitely let, if you are receiving ABA, like let them know if it's something you really want to work on, because we're more than happy to like work on it during our sessions, because, you know, like we said, masks aren't going away, like these platforms aren't going away either. I think there's going to be more and more things that are being done through Zoom, more and more FaceTime. Maybe your family doesn't live close by and you aren't seeing your family, and so FaceTime is really the only way to connect. So definitely let us know if you want to work on that with your child, because maybe it can definitely help support you with that.
Absolutely. And then I found this recently, and I thought this was a really fun visual to provide for our kiddos. New ways to say hello. These are social distancing greetings. So in this particular visual, it shows that you can wave, you can give a peace sign, you can give spirit fingers, you can give an air fist bump, a salute. Some kids like to do the dab. I mean, I think there's some really fun opportunities to explore new ways to engage with people in a socially distanced way. And again, it's coming up with accepting different forms of saying hello and goodbye from kids. You know, we do certainly want to encourage that from kids, but a lot of our kids might not be ready to say hello and goodbye for a variety of different reasons. And so these are fun ways to acknowledge that another person is there and also greet them or say goodbye to them in ways that might be unique for them. And these are some good visuals to practice. I don't feel comfortable waving because I'm not used to it. I like to give hugs. Oh, have you ever tried a thumbs up? And something like simple as that might give kids some empowerment to feel like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. I can engage with other people in this new way, and feel confident in my own skin in this new environment, whatever that might look like for them. And we can also provide this as a resource if someone would like it. It was a very cute little visual here. And then lastly, just a big thank you to you guys. I know we might have some questions at the end, but just a really big thank you for your time and for engaging with us this evening. Certainly feel free to follow us at MeBe Family on Instagram and Facebook. We're going to be uploading this webinar to our website and have some more resources for all of our attendees this evening. So if there's opportunities for questions, we can do that now.
And while we're doing that, I do have a couple last little survey questions for our participants here too as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one on the screen just to give us some feedback. This is the first of our MeBe Learning Parent Webinar series, and we plan to do some more as well. So we would love to hear from you to know if you thought this was useful and helpful information for you. And then we'll also ask for some feedback for some future topics as well. So I'll leave this open so we can get some more feedback, and I'll wait a few more seconds as Angela and Megan sit on pins and needles to know.
It's all useful for us, so whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So all positive, pretty useful, very useful, and incredibly useful. So thank you very much for that feedback. And I've got one more for you just to give us some ideas about future topics that you're interested in. So we are planning to do a regular series of webinars. So just let us know what topics you'd be interested in learning more about for some future webinar presentations. And I'll give that a minute if the results are coming in.
It looks like there's a question too. Do you want me just to answer it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, someone said that they've noticed that their daughter's gotten aggressive since being stuck at home when she wasn't prior. How do I combat that when it's due to not getting away from everyone at home. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really tough. A lot of our kids are used to being able to like go outside or go, you know, to different outings or different activities. Obviously, those activities aren't happening right now. I would definitely recommend to talk to your ABA supervisor if you are receiving ABA right now, to kind of help on different strategies to use, you know, while we're, you know, navigating COVID. Hopefully things will start opening up soon, so you'll be able to work on things kind of more outside the home again. But I would definitely recommend, if you are receiving ABA, to talk to your supervisor about that, because we definitely want to make sure that we're tackling it at the, you know, whatever that function of that behavior is serving. So whether it be access to something or trying to escape, and how can we, you know, appropriately get your child to communicate what it is they want instead of engaging in that maladaptive behavior.
Yeah. Some things on the occupational therapy side of things too. We do recognize the need for some maybe sensory supports in the home if and when possible. We know that's not always possible in a lot of different ways. And we're going to talk a lot more about these in some of the other series that we have coming up. But, you know, opportunities to like, I need a break, and truly giving opportunities for those breaks at home, whatever that looks like. And maybe that means that there's just a lot of people around and I need some space. And creating a safe, you know, quiet space in the home may be supportive for that if that's what your child would benefit from. So some supportive safe spaces in the home could have things like maybe a rolled up blanket in the corner with some pillows, a little fort that's created out of a blanket between two couches, some area that has a little bit of some dim lighting, or maybe you know, one of those star lights in them where you can, like, it's a quiet part in their bedroom that might have a dark corner, but you can put on those little lights that have stars. So it gives them some opportunities for a very controlled kind of quieter space. I like to recommend playing music throughout the day. Sometimes music can be really beneficial to kind of set the tone for the day. So if the day has been a pretty busy one, or a pretty active day, or a very aggressive day, or a day that's been some challenges in the day, we're going to put on maybe some calmer music in the background to set the tone for dinner and bedtime and bath time and things like that, that can help maybe support the needs of your child in that way. Because I recognize that exactly, that a lot of our outlets that are available for adults and children are not open right now. And so giving them opportunities for true breaks away in a safe and controlled manner might support them. And then certainly if your child is receiving occupational therapy or would like more information, you know, I'm here to help, and our OT team are here to help too.
Some other things you could do too is it's really hard when there's lack of structure for a lot of our kids too. So trying to like structure your kids' day as well. I know it's really hard, especially if you're working remotely, to like structure your kids' day as well as kind of work yourselves. But as much as you can, kind of structure like, okay, like we're gonna now have, you know, snack time. Now we're gonna go and do you know, free time. Now we're gonna do you know, maybe do some coloring, you know, kind of structure your kids' day so that way they have kind of a routine to follow. Will also kind of help as well, just because that school structure a lot of our kids really thrive on, and right now they're not receiving a lot of that structure. So that might help decrease some of those maladaptive behaviors as well.
Mm-hmm. There was
We have another question as well in the chat box there.
The question is, my 10-year-old usually will ask me she needs space from her 2-year-old brother, sister, or sibling, but sometimes it's difficult since they share a room. Any suggestions I can help them? It's a great question.
It's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, I think what you can do is if they share a room, you could use a visual on the door. I mean, you talked about visuals, I feel like, throughout this whole presentation, but putting a visual on the door that like the room like is not available to them right now. So then they know that they can go to a different area of the house. Maybe that they have a separate kind of like break area. Maybe you make part of, you know, you as the parent, maybe you make part of your bedroom a kind of break area for your kid. I know it can be hard sometimes if you don't have a lot of space in your home to be able to kind of set that up. But kind of like Angela was saying, is like trying to find a spot that works kind of for everyone, and then using those visual supports so that your child knows, oh, okay, I can't go in here right now because, you know, my siblings in here and I need a break, or maybe vice versa. You know, maybe your child's asking for that break appropriately, which is great. So now your 2-year-old can't go in there. So it could just be a red stop sign and trying to teach your 2-year-old, okay, like when this is there, we can't go in the room because, you know, so-and-so needs a break. So definitely using those visual supports, I would recommend.
Yeah.
Angela, if you agree.
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions. And I think too, really just honoring that too, because you've got the 10-year-old who needs the break and you've got the 2-year-old who thinks their 10-year-old sibling's wonderful and everything they do is great, or where they want to be, I want to be. And so just really, setting them both up for success as best as possible. One thing we might do is something like, set a timer. I don't love to live my life in timers. And I know that can be really challenging to structure your day with timers, but that can also give structure to kids, especially younger siblings who need to understand that these are some signs that your daughter needs a break. And so we're going to let her go in this room or he'll go in this space, and we're going to set this timer for 10 minutes. There's a lot of different timers out there. Certainly the ones that come on your phone are great. There's a couple timers that I use in my clinical practice where they play music. So while the timer's going, it plays music, and you can either choose the music or it comes with music. And you can set timers up to 20 minutes. And while the music is going on, sibling needs a break. And so we're going to let you be over here. And then when the music is over, that means their break is done and it's time for us that you can go see them now. So helping set up some structure and really giving some expectations too. Like if your daughter is having some challenges with even just expressing like, I need a break, or like, I need some time away. It's not always possible, but let's put it on the schedule for the day. So right now, 1 p.m. is not an option, but let's do it at 3. And we can set you guys apart and do whatever it is that we need to do. That might also be one strategy too, is to give some structure, as long as we know it's coming. Time feels very abstract for a lot of our kiddos, and I understand that's challenging. So recognizing that, putting it on a schedule or giving a timer or some sort of finite opportunity to measure how much time is needed, and those break opportunities might also support them too. These are great questions.
We had one family comment that they got a small circle tent and put a beanbag chair in it, and that's their quiet space, and that their younger sibling knows not to go into the tent. So that
nice. Great job.
Great.
And they said those are great suggestions, so thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't see any other questions. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask before we sign off? All right, I don't think we have any other questions. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today and asking lots of great questions and providing lots of extra helpful comments for our group here as well. So someone's saying thank you, so thank you. So thank you very much for joining us this evening and spending your evening with us. We will end the recording, and then like I said, we will be posting the recording to the MeBe website at mebefamily.com, and we will send an email out as well with a copy of the presentation and the link to those resources that were mentioned. And definitely come back and check us out again for more helpful tips and strategies in future webinars. So thank you very much, and have a nice rest of your night.
Bye.